Hi everyone, it's Sarah Todd. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. As of yesterday, April 19th, I became disabled 16 years ago. On April 19th, 2010, I became paralyzed from the neck down out of nowhere. I've told my full disability story a few times in a couple long form videos and in some shorts, but I'm gonna briefly recap here because it is quite the story. So I was at ballet class, was trying on a recital costume. I was dancing around the studio when I all of a sudden got a really excruciating head and neck ache. So excruciating to the point that I was crying, and I had asked my mom to take me home, which was very unlike me because I loved being at ballet class. And on my way out of the dance studio, I sat down on a bench to adjust my tights before leaving, and my arms and hands just all of a sudden stopped working. They became completely paralyzed. So I said to my mom that I couldn't move my arms, and she was like, all right, well, obviously we're not going home. We were pretty far away from a hospital at that point. Would have taken us a long time to get there. So we went to an urgent care that was really close. We get there, I get out of the car, and I can't walk even though I can still move my legs. So my mom carries me inside and they fly me via helicopter to the nearest hospital, where I remained in the emergency room for 6 hours. I couldn't move my arms and hands. I couldn't walk. I couldn't sit up. And they didn't provide me any treatment except Motrin for my head and neck pain, even though my mom was begging the doctor to do something, begging for a different doctor. My parents were told that if I wasn't better in the morning to bring me back. So 8-year-old me thought, okay, the doctor must think that I'll be better in the morning. So when I woke up the next morning, I was like so excited. I thought that everything was gonna be normal, only to find that I then also couldn't move my legs. So I was completely paralyzed from the neck down. I went back to the hospital via an ambulance. We literally had to ask them to turn the sirens on because they hadn't done that, which is wild to me. I get to the hospital. Thankfully, I have an MRI done, a spinal tap done, like all the necessary tests, and they find out I have a spinal cord injury from C2 to T1. I was diagnosed with transverse myelitis at the time, but in 2018, I was re-diagnosed with acute flaccid myelitis, or AFM. So I have AFM, and I was in the hospital for 2 months, regained the ability to walk, so I walked out of the hospital, but I have been left with partial paralysis in my arms and hands. So can't move my left hand at all. I have very limited movement in my right hand, and I can't lift my arms up very high. I can only raise them a little bit. So my disability impacts my day-to-day life, and it has for the past 16 years. I got involved in disability advocacy as a child, since everything happened to me as a child. I co-wrote my first book with my bestie Jen, who also has a disability, when we were 10 and 14. We self-published it. We wrote 2 more books as teenagers, and that's kind of what got me into advocacy. I learned that I love to write and speak about disability. So I've been doing that ever since I was 10, and have always been open about my disability on social media. And so that's how I have the social media presence. And now I do speaking engagements, I do consulting, I do social media as my career. So I literally get to be a disability advocate as my career, and it is like the best job ever. Very challenging and mentally draining, but an amazing job to have. Throughout the past 16 years of being disabled, I have learned so much along the way. So today I'm going to share with you 5 of the biggest lessons that I've learned throughout these past 16 years. I think this quote that I always have in my head really summarizes what I've learned throughout these past 16 years very well. And the quote is from Morgan Harper Nichols, and it says, "Going through things you never thought you'd go through will only take you places you never thought you'd get to." I think that just summarizes my disability experience to a T, and let's talk about that a bit more. So I would say lesson number 1 that I've learned, and these are in no particular order, is that disability is not inherently negative, that positive experiences can come out of a challenging experience. A lot of people think that disability is an inherently negative experience, that disability is worse than not being alive, that you would rather not be alive than be disabled, that if you become disabled, you're miserable, you can't do anything, you're not gonna have any friends, etc. I really like to push back at that. Like, obviously being disabled is challenging, but there's so many beautiful things that can come out of being disabled as well. I've made so many friends since becoming disabled. My best friend Jen, who's like a sister to me, who I mentioned earlier, I wouldn't know her if I hadn't become disabled because we met through our disabilities. I have tons of disabled friends. I've built a very fulfilling disability community that I'm so proud to be a part of. I literally got to meet One Direction because I'm disabled. I had a Make-A-Wish in 2014. I used it to meet One Direction, and it was like one of the best days of my life. I have a video talking about that whole experience if y'all are interested. It was incredible. I look back on those memories with so much fondness. Like, what an experience that was. And that's actually the experience that really got me thinking about the fact that positive experiences can come out of challenging experiences. I got to walk in New York Fashion Week in 2019. I modeled Kohl's adaptive clothing, walked in New York Fashion Week. It was such a moment. It was very exhilarating. Everybody was cheering. I felt beautiful. I felt happy. I felt proud. I would not have done that if I hadn't become disabled. My career revolves around disability advocacy. I mentioned that earlier. I definitely would not be a disability advocate if I hadn't become disabled. And there's definitely so many more things. Those aren't the only positive experiences that have come out of being disabled, but just some that are at the top of my head. My second lesson that I've learned is it is not helpful to harp on recovery. I did obviously recover a lot after becoming paralyzed, and I'm very thankful for that. It was all luck. I did work very hard in physical and occupational therapy, but I got lucky. I really want to push back on that, like, you were so determined narrative, because no, there are plenty of people who are determined to recover and they sadly don't have that happen, and that is not their fault. So I was lucky. I always tell people that when they're like, wow, you worked so hard to recover. I'm like, nope, I was lucky. Like, I really don't like to take credit for that because bodies just kind of do what they want to do. So I got very lucky. And where I am with my disability now, with this partial arm and hand paralysis and the other problems that I have from being disabled, like my scoliosis, I am not going to recover anymore. Due to the nature of my disability, that's just not possible. And accepting that is actually very helpful for me. Like, practicing radical acceptance is so healing. And in my opinion, I think the best way to move forward with life after disability is accepting the situation and just moving on with your life. Like, keep going. That doesn't mean that I ignore the difficult parts of my disability, but it actually means allowing myself to sit with the difficult parts of my disability and celebrate the joys that come from my disability. I think it allows me to have a more well-rounded perspective and view on my disability experience. All right, the third lesson I've learned is that disability will impact nearly every aspect of my life in both the good ways and bad ways. So, like, disability isn't only something that's just relevant at doctor's appointments. A lot of people see disability as something that is purely medical, and it is medical, but there's so much more to disability than that. Disability is a culture, disability is an identity, and it impacts literally every aspect of my life. So it's relevant to where I chose to go to college. I really don't think that I would have chosen the college that I chose if I weren't disabled, because a lot of my reasons for choosing that college had to do with my disability. It's relevant to how I socialize. Like, sometimes I choose not to partake in a certain social activity because I know it's going to be difficult for me because of my disability. It's relevant to how I dress. You know, certain pieces of clothing are not accessible for me, so I may choose not to wear them. It's relevant to my hobbies, like filming YouTube videos and talking about disability. That's one of my hobbies. I probably would not be doing this if I weren't disabled. I was a dancer before I became disabled, and after I became disabled, it's just kind of become part of my life a little bit less in most recent years, but I grew a love for choreography after I became disabled because I wanted to make the movements work with my body, my disability. I don't really think I would have had that hobby if I hadn't become disabled, because it was related to my disability. Disability is relevant to my career, as I've said already in this video. I wouldn't be doing this if I weren't disabled. So essentially, everything is disability. And I kind of have a love-hate relationship with that. It's really cool that disability is relevant to so many aspects of my life, but it can also be really frustrating that disability is relevant to so many aspects of my life, like not being able to wear certain pieces of clothing, as one example. Okay, the fourth lesson that I've learned is you never know what life is going to throw at you, so don't take anything for granted. My disability makes it more difficult or impossible for me to do certain things. So, like, for example, driving. I cannot just hop in a car, sit behind the steering wheel, and drive. I need to have modifications made to a car for me to be able to drive. Talked about this in another video that I will put here if y'all would like to watch that. So once I get those modifications put in a vehicle for me, I will never take that for granted. Like, a lot of people complain about driving, and I get that it's something not everybody likes to do and it can be stressful, it's not easy, but I will be so thankful to be able to drive once I get that worked out, that I will never take it for granted. And I know that eventually it won't be seen as cool anymore to me because I'll get used to it, but I really want to try to be intentional every time I get behind the wheel to just really enjoy it and be so thankful that I'm able to do that. think I also really understand the fragility of life even more, like that nothing is guaranteed, because my disability happened to me out of nowhere on April 19th, 2010. I was not expecting to become paralyzed from the neck down, and my disability has impacted my lung function. I was in the ICU for 12 days after everything happened because they thought I might need a ventilator, and thankfully I never did, but it was a life-threatening situation in the very beginning. So I really don't take days for granted. I really try to enjoy every single day that I have. And I know some days are going to be mundane and there's not always going to be something exciting. And sometimes I'm in a bad mood or something bad happens. But I really try to find positive moments in every day that I have because I'm very thankful for every day that I have on this earth. The fifth and final lesson that I want to share is I have the choice regarding how I want to approach my life. So what's worked quite well for me in my acceptance journey is finding ways to make my life fulfilling that are related to my disability. So that way, my disability has given me more than it has taken away from me. So what I mean by that is I could have chosen to not become a disability advocate and to not immerse myself in the disability community, which are absolutely totally fine choices to make. And it would have been completely okay for me to make those choices. But if I had not become an advocate, or if I had not immersed myself in the disability community, I feel like it would be easier for me to view my disability through a solely negative lens, because those are two very positive things related to my disability that I have involved myself in. So for me, I feel like it's easier for me to say, like, my disability has given me so much more than it's taken away from me, because I have the career around my disability and I have the friends that are in the disability community. So I'm very happy that I've made those choices. It has worked very well for me, and I think is partly what's helped me build the life that I've built for myself. So I am very proud of that. So those are the 5 lessons that came to mind. I, of course, have learned many more things than just these 5 lessons throughout the past 16 years. There are many more lessons, and I will never stop learning. I'm going to keep learning. These are the 5 that I've noticed are on my mind a lot, so they felt very pertinent to share. So happy disability anniversary to me, and here's to many more. If you all enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I hope to see you all at my next video. I post long form videos every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific time. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day. Bye, everyone.